UFC Vancouver, Reiner Ritter versus Brendan Allen is taking place this weekend. Not the best of card, but there are a couple of fun fights. All right, I'm going to be covering every single fight on this card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the video. All right, first off, we got the people's main event, Melissa Croden versus Tainara Lisboa. Like, I don't care who Melissa Croden is, alright? She's coming on short notice. I don't know if that really helps. I think she's like a Canadian regional fighter. Like, I don't even know her topology, to be honest. I just don't find Tainara Lisboa all that impressive. She's like a grappling specialist who, at best, can just control you in terms of jiu-jitsu. And on the feet, she doesn't really have much to offer. In her fight with Luana Santos not that long ago, Luana Santos, who I also don't rate all that highly, completely dominated her across 3 rounds. Melissa Croden, she's Canadian, all right, and usually that's not a good base for mixed martial arts, but because she's a woman, all right, women's MMA in Canada is actually doing very well right now. All right, I'm gonna actually pick Melissa Croden to beat Tainara Lisboa. All right, if I get this fight wrong, do I care? No. I don't even know who Melissa Croden is. I have no idea how she fights. So yeah, take it as you will. I'm just gonna go with Melissa Croden on this one. All right, now moving on, we got Azamat Bekoev versus Yousri Belgaroui. I'm gonna go with Azamat Bekoev on this one. Azamat Bekoev is actually really good. I don't understand why they matched him up with a debutant in Yousri Belgaroui, who's not even all that impressive to begin with in throughout his regional career. Like Yousri Belgaroui, over his last couple of fights has been win loss win loss. And Azamat Bekoev's like a legitimate middleweight prospect that I could potentially see close, if not in the rankings, pretty soon. Like this guy's got some very solid wrestling, and he's got some dynamite in his hands. All right, it could be because he's on steroids, but he hasn't technically popped yet, so I can't definitively say that. And also, the guy's got some sick mic skills. All right. I think Azamat Bekoev is a star in the making. All right. Maybe the UFC is trying to build up Azamat Bekoev, but yeah, that's what it is actually. Because again, you're not getting Yousri Belgaroui when you already have wins over Ryan Loder and Zachary Reese, who are like middle of the pack level in the middleweight division. So I'm gonna go with Azamat Bekoev, do what he does, get a TKO within the first 2 rounds, and I'm pretty sure Azamat Bekoev is gonna have a pretty funny post fight interview after that. So I'm gonna be staying tuned for that. All right, now up next we got Stephanie Luciano versus Ravina Oliveira. I don't. I still can't believe Ravina Oliveira has not been cut from the UFC. She has had one fight over the last 2 years. She lost that fight to Tainara Lisboa. Uh, hard to believe that they fought at the same weight class at one point. But yeah, I don't rate anything Ravina Oliveira does. Right, where Stephanie Luciano, like I can actually see some talent in the striking. Like there are some concerns with her grappling, but it's not like Ravina Oliveira's a dominant grappler. If anything, Ravina Oliveira is gonna try to strike with Luciano on the feet, and I think that's a very approachable matchup for Stephanie Luciano. So I'm gonna go with Stephanie Luciano in typical NPC women's MMA fight, 29-28 decision. There's going to be a lot of shadow boxing out of range. There's going to be 20 strikes across like 3 rounds landed. I think Stephanie Luciano, though, is going to land the more impactful shots, and she's going to land slightly more across 3 rounds. So, yeah, Stephanie Luciano is going to win 29-28 via decision. All right, now up next, we got Kyle Prepolec versus Drew Dober. Now, Drew Dober is pretty cooked right now. All right, he lost to Jean Silva. Jean Silva just butchered him across 3 rounds. Then he got bulldozed by Manuel Torres. Now, I have a lot of questions regarding Drew Dober's chin, but at the same time, I don't believe that Kyle Prepolec deserves to be in the UFC. He fought Benoit Saint-Denis on short notice, but like I understand that Kyle Prepolec was able to survive to the second round, and I do understand that he did make Benoit Saint-Denis look mid, but at the same time, why is Kyle Prepolec still here? All right. He's like what in his late 30s. Not to say that Drew Dober's any younger, but at the same time, the UFC just brought him on for UFC 315 because he was Canadian. And this is a very similar opportunity that Kyle Prepolec is getting. Now, Drew Dober is a step down in competition compared to Benoit Saint-Denis, but I don't think Kyle Prepolec's going to be able to find his shots like what happened in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight. You know, Drew Dober, although he gets hit a lot, he's a lot more defensively sound than Benoit Saint-Denis when it comes to the boxing. And plus, Drew Dober has more KO potential than Kyle Prepolec. Drew Dober, his cardio's not that bad either. I've seen Kyle Prepolec gas out, which to be fair, he did fight Benoit Saint-Denis on short notice, but still, it wasn't like it was a crazy pace. I'm gonna say that Drew Dober just gets this done on the feet. Alright, I think he has the more KO potential. I think if this fight's gonna get to a finish, Drew Dober is gonna be able to scrap this one out. And although he did get knocked out badly in his last fight with Manuel Torres, that's Manuel Torres. Manuel Torres bulldozes nearly everybody outside the rankings of the lightweight division. And I think Drew Dober still has enough durability to tank the shots of Kyle Prepolec to eventually find himself like a scrappy round 2, round 3 TKO. All right, now up next we got Danny Barlow versus Jourdain Santos. I'm gonna go with Danny Barlow on this one. Like, I say this very hesitantly because I don't think either of these guys are all that good. But the difference is Danny Barlow, you know, lighter man skill. He did fight at welterweight at some point, and his only loss so far is against Sam Patterson, who I think can make like a legitimate prospect in the welterweight division. Danny Barlow, I think he's the more technical striker. And although Jourdain Santos is very aggressive, very fun to watch, and he did arguably beat Ozzy Diaz in his last fight, like at the same time though, like why are you going to a 3-round scrap with Ozzy Diaz, right? Like I think Danny Barlow's the more fundamentally sound fighter, and he's going to have an easier time picking his shots compared to Jourdain Santos, who, you know, kind of just swings his punches aggressively and then gasses himself out. So over the course of 3 rounds, I'm gonna favor Danny Barlow to get it done. All right, using his speed, his technique, and just overall having like better selection than Jourdain Santos. So yeah, Danny Barlow, I'm gonna say he wins this fight 29-28, 30-27 by decision. All right, now up next we got Bruno Silva versus Hyunsung Park. Now, I think everyone knows who I'm going to pick here. I'm going to go with Hyunsung Park. Now, I understand that he looked really bad against Tatsuro Taira. All right, there's no excuse for that. Actually, no, there is. You know, Hyunsung Park did take that fight on like a week's notice, and he was supposed to fight Steve Ursig before that. So I believe that Hyunsung Park is going to have a better training camp now that he's got a full training camp for this and against a much more approachable fighter in Bruno Silva. All right. Bruno Silva, he's not bad, but his main like wave to victory is getting pieced up on the feet and then finding a comeback KO. Right. And over time, we've kind of seen that it doesn't really work when, you know, he's fighting top level opposition who's gonna just piece him up over the course of 3 rounds. Now, I don't think that's gonna necessarily happen. I do think that guys like Joshua Van and Manel Cap are better than Hyunsung Park on the feet. However, the difference is Hyunsung Park is a lot more well-rounded. All right, he will initiate grappling, which isn't something Bruno Silva's really used to. And sure, Bruno Silva beat Cody Djorden. But even Cody Djorden was scrapping with him and beating him to the punch before ultimately getting knocked out. And Cody Jourdain's kind of on a huge loss streak. And I think Hyunsung Park is a lot more versatile than Cody Jourdain, who primarily just shoots double legs or just tries to box with you. There's nothing in between. Hyunsung Park, he can take the back. The jiu-jitsu is the option for him because Bruno Silva, like, he hasn't really shown that much jiu-jitsu throughout his UFC career. I think Bruno Silva's grappling is rather untested because it's been a while since he's fought someone who's well-rounded. I think Hyunsung Park, over the course of 3 rounds, is going to have the ability to dictate where the fight goes. And ultimately, I'm going to bank on him to get a round 2 or 3 submission. All right, round 1, maybe he's like trying to avoid the shots of Bruno Silva. I could see Bruno Silva like hitting him with some shots, but at the same time, Bruno Silva, he is getting up there, right? He took a lot of bad beatings over the course of 2024 and 2025. I don't know if I can really trust Bruno Silva to get a knockout, like, which is basically his only path to victory. So I'm gonna pick Hyunsung Park to win this fight by round 2 submission. Uh, like, he can duke it out on the feet, but I think he's gonna come out here with a smart game plan. Uh, kind of implement what Tatsuro Taira did to him, like, and use a couple of things, and ultimately find the rear naked choke for a round 2 submission. So yeah, Hyunsung Park should win this fight. All right, now up next we got Charles Jourdain versus Davey Grant. I'm gonna go with Davey Grant on this one. I believe that Davey Grant is the better kickboxer. And that's ultimately it. Like Charles Jourdain, like yes, his best weapons are the power guillotines, but realistically, when is Davey Grant ever gonna put himself in a power guillotine? Right? Charles Jourdain, like, he needs someone to try to wrestle with him after he picks them apart on the feet in order to set up that power guillotine and sub them out. Right? That's happened in nearly every single one of Charles Jourdain's fights. Keep opponents outside of range with the kicks, and as soon as they try to enter into wrestling range, that's when he shoots up that nasty guillotine and subs them out. Davey Grant is not going to give him that chance, and I think Davey Grant is better than Charles Jourdain in the kickboxing, right? Davey Grant actually throws a lot more better combinations. He's a lot faster than Charles Jourdain. He's not as reliant on just keeping opponents at range. Davey Grant, in my opinion, is going to be able to piece up Charles Jourdain over the course of 3 rounds. And I don't know how Charles Jourdain's really going to win this if he's not going to get the guillotine, all right? Again, his only path to victory is either that or having a scrappy fight that goes to a distance. But he's going to scrappy fights with, like, lesser competition than Davey Grant. And Davey Grant, if you don't have the wrestling to try to keep him down, whereas Charles Jourdain isn't the guy to really initiate offensive grappling, Davey Grant's a nightmare to deal with. All right, you got to be a special talent on the feet if you want to out kickbox Davey Grant, and you got to be able to mix up takedowns throughout the entire course of the fight. So I'm gonna pick Davey Grant to win this fight. Typical Davey Grant masterclass: 30-27, 29-28. Maybe Charles Jourdain has some success, but I think Davey Grant's just going to land the cleaner shots over the course of 3 rounds. All right, now moving on to the main card, we got Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frevola. I don't know who to pick for this fight. I'm slightly leaning towards Matt Frevola. I know his chin is probably cooked. Right, he's got some nasty knockout losses, like the Fares Ziam loss was brutal. The Benoit Saint-Denis head kick was brutal, but he's taken some time off, and I don't believe that Kyle Nelson. I don't know. I just don't think he has the ability to put away Matt Frevola. Like Kyle Nelson, like over the course of like 5 years, has had 1 KO over Bill Aljo, and even that was kind of an early stoppage. Kyle Nelson, he typically fights just shelling up and throwing the jab and the calf kicks. And he has got a good switch kick with his left leg, but he doesn't really do much of anything else. I think Matt Frevola has the options to mix up the martial arts. Matt Frevola is strong. He's got pretty good wrestling. He can take you down and power drive you. All right. He's not going to hold you down there, but it's just the fact that Matt Frevola has the ability to dictate where the fight goes. is what's ultimately going to make the difference. Because Kyle Nelson, I think, is going to be too occupied with the hands. Matt Frevola is very dangerous. All right, he's still got some KO power in him, and it's not like Kyle Nelson's just that much bigger than him, where Matt Frevola is going to have a hard time finding the reach. Like Kyle Nelson, although he's like 2 inches taller than Matt Frevola, Kyle Nelson was a featherweight for like a very long time. And sure, you could say lighter man skill, but at the same time, I need to see some sort of like, aggression. I don't think Kyle Nelson really has that in his game. So I'm gonna go with Matt Frevola to win this fight by round 2 or 3 TKO. Maybe it goes to a decision. Maybe Matt Frevola is pretty washed. But I just think Matt Frevola has the options to mix up the martial arts. And he's a lot more dangerous than Kyle Nelson. So I'm gonna go with Matt Frevola to win this fight. I'll say by like round 3 TKO. Alright, now moving on, we got Cody Gibson versus Aoriqileng. I'm gonna go with Cody Gibson on this one, and it's a very simple reason. Aoriqileng just doesn't belong in the UFC. Alright, Aoriqileng, I don't remember the last time he's won a fight. Alright, he's coming off a loss to Raul Rosas Jr. I don't think Raul Rosas Jr. is all that good. He also lost to Daniel Marcos. Again, I don't think Daniel Marcos is all that good. And that was a pretty dominant loss. Like, his whole gimmick is that he has pretty good takedown defense. But it's not like he's very good on the feet. Aoriqileng, like, he'll throw a couple of shots, but he doesn't have the knockout power. He doesn't really have the shot selection to really confuse fighters. And Cody Gibson, I think, is just more talented than him. Now, Cody Gibson can throw this fight, right? Cody Gibson, he has been making some pretty dumb decisions, like when he fought Damon Blackshear, like where he's tuning up Damon Blackshear on the feet, but then decided to shoot takedowns at the end of every round and ultimately get submitted in the second. But then again, Cody Gibson's actually pretty good. I actually see some talent in his striking. He can also wrestle in this fight, which against Damon Blackshear, like, why would you do that? But at the same time, Cody Gibson, like, he's fighting Aoriqileng. Alright, Aoriqileng, he doesn't have that good jiu-jitsu. Alright, he has good takedown defense, and that's about it. So I'm gonna go with Cody Gibson just being the better fighter overall to win this fight. 30-27 decision. I think it's gonna be pretty one-sided. Cody Gibson also has the height and reach advantage, which isn't something that Aoriqileng is used to because he fought at flyweight at 5'8" at one point. So I'm gonna go with Cody Gibson to win this fight pretty dominantly. All right, now moving on, we got Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. I'm gonna go with Manon Fiorot on this one. Manon Fiorot, I know she had that incredibly dull and boring fight with Valentina Shevchenko, but I think Manon Fiorot's like a level above most of the women outside of the top 3 in the flyweight division. Like Jasmine Jasudavicius, like, yes, she's on a huge win streak. Yes, she's been subbing every person that she's gone up against. But I think Manon Fiorot has the ability to neutralize her grappling. And if this is a fight on the feet, I'm confident in Manon Fiorot's striking. Whereas Jasmine Jasudavicius, a lot of the times, is for opponents are able to stuff her takedowns, she's kind of forced to fight on the feet. Like, she doesn't have a plan B. She's just kind of there, getting hit repeatedly before losing a decision to Tracy Cortez. I'm gonna go with Manon Fiorot. It's gonna be similar to the Erin Blanchfield fight, I reckon. Alright, she's got very good takedown defense, and although she's not very active as a striker, alright, she is better than most of the women in the flyweight division, and she hits pretty hard compared to most of the women in the flyweight division. I think she's gonna be able to just piece Jasmine Jasudavicius up over the course of 3 rounds, make it a 30-27 decision. I could see Jasmine Jasudavicius winning, but again, she has to get the fight to the ground. And I don't see Jasmine Jasudavicius being able to get Manon Fiorot down to the ground. So I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot to win this fight, 30-27 by decision. All right, now up next, we got Marlon Vera versus Aiemann Zahabi. Oh, man, like, this is a very frustrating fight to pick. Like, I don't want either of them to win. I don't think either of them are particularly good. But I gotta pick a winner. I'm gonna go with Cheeto Vera on this one. Like, I tried to see whether or not Aiemann Zahabi can make it into the top 7. And on paper, he has all the advantages. He's actually on a momentum. Cheeto Vera's coming off a loss to Davison Figueiredo, and he hasn't fought since. Aiemann Zahabi's also, like, the better boxer, and he has a lot smarter game plans than Marlon Vera. The difference is, I just can't imagine Aiemann Zahabi being the number 7 ranked bantamweight in the UFC. It's as simple as that, right? Like, he does everything I'm telling you right now. Aiemann Zahabi should win this fight. Hands down, I think he should win based on the tape and the stylistic matchup, and the fact that Marlon Vera has not looked good since 2022. Right? It's been a while since Marlon Vera's really put out a statement performance. He's been getting schooled on the feet by Corey Sandhagen and on the ground. Uh, he got done dirty by Sean O'Malley. He lost to Davis and Figueiredo. Even his wins, like when he beat Pedro Munoz, was a very dog shit fight. And Aiemann Zahabi did come off a good performance against Pedro Munoz, although you could say that Pedro Munoz is washed. It's hard. It's really hard to pick who's going to win this fight. I just don't believe that Aiemann Zahabi is going to be the number 7 ranked bantamweight in the UFC, right? I cannot imagine a world where I see the Ariel Helwani doppelganger become the number 7 ranked bantamweight, right? That's it. Like, Marlon Vera's not good. Like, the only way he's gonna win if he flukes a head kick. I reckon he can fluke a head kick on this one, alright? He's probably gonna get pieced up for the first 2 rounds because that's typically how every single Marlon Vera fight goes. But in the 3rd round, like, Aiemann Zahabi, he doesn't really push a pace, right? He's barely aggressive, and I think that's gonna be Marlon Vera's chances to really just put it on Aiemann Zahabi. And plus, Aiemann Zahabi doesn't have any grappling threats, right? Chito Vera, he's very slow, especially if you mix the martial arts on him. Aiemann Zahabi, he just strikes, right? He just strikes, and he has jujitsu in his back pocket. He doesn't really initiate any sort of grappling himself, and I reckon that Marlon Vera, right, he's been regressing a lot, but I think he's going to be able to just fluke a head kick on this one. Will I look like an idiot when Aemon's hobby just 30-27s him? Yes, but that's a risk I'm willing to take because I don't believe that Aemon's a hobby could be a top ranked UFC bantamweight in the first place. All right, now up next we got the co-main event: Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott. Kevin Holland should win this fight, but do I trust Kevin Holland to win this fight? That's the question we're gonna play here. All right, I think Kevin Holland is out there to just ruin people's parlays and get a paycheck. Like Kevin Holland sometimes, he'll look like a world beater. Like when he fought Vicente Luque. Or like when who else did he fight? When he fought Gunnar Nelson and actually gritted down and tried to win the fight for once. But then he'll have the fight with D-Rod. I'm like, and sure, like he did try to win, but at the same time, why are you losing to Daniel Rodriguez? The UFC literally set that matchup up so that Kevin Holland could get a free win. Why is Kevin Holland getting dropped in the second and third round by Daniel Rodriguez? I don't understand that. Mike Malott, though, like, you lost to Neil Magny. You didn't look good after when you fought Trevin Giles. Everyone should finish Trevin Giles. And the fact that Mike Malott didn't do that is concerning. He does have a good win over Charles Radke, but outside of that, I have not been impressed with Mike Malott whatsoever. Right? He's been fighting schmucks. Then he got a fight with Neil Magny. And then he's looked mid against Trevin Giles. And then he finished Charles Radke, which is, like, honestly his only, like, impressive performance. It's tough. It really is. Like, I could see either fighter winning this. And, like, no matter who wins this fight, I'm going to look like an idiot. Because I'm like, oh, Kevin Holland should win. But, like, you're an idiot for trusting Kevin Holland. Or you could say, oh, Mike Malott, he's terrible. He lost to Neil Magny and looked complete dog shit against Trevin Giles. I'm going to go with Kevin Holland on this one. Right? I just think he's better. Right? He should win this fight. And if he actually tries to come out and win, there's no question that Kevin Owens going to be able to beat up Mike Malott over the course of 3 rounds. Mike Malott, he doesn't throw that much. His primary path to victory is just kind of standing there and leg kick TKOing you or over the course of 3 rounds. Like, I know he got that beautiful left hook counter against Charles Radke, but that's because Charles Radke is like 5'9", and Radke's actually forced to try to go on the inside. Kevin Holland will just stick his jab out at range and then keep you at a distance because he's got a very long reach and he knows how to put out punches out of range, right? Kevin Holland, I think, is just a better outside fighter. And plus, I know that Kevin Holland's defense is complete dog water, but at the same time, is Mike Malott really going to capitalize on that? I don't think so. All right, Mike Mallott's actually going to have to go down there, grit down, and be aggressive. But that's not what Mike Malott does. Mike Malott loves to play the range game as well, and he's a lot worse at that range game than Kevin Holland. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland to win this fight. 30-27, my decision. Like, this is honestly, like, the worst pick I can make, alright? If Mike Malott wins, I wouldn't be surprised, but I just can't trust someone who lost to Neil Magny and took Trevin Giles to a decision. Because I feel like if you're, like, a legitimate ranked welterweight, you need to beat Trevin Giles by finish. Every single person who's gone on to do, like, good things in their divisions beats Trevin Giles by KO or submission. All right, now last but not least, we got the main event: Reiner de Ridder versus Brendan Allen. I'm gonna go with Reiner de Ridder on this one. Like, this is pretty obvious. I think most people are gonna go with Reiner de Ridder on this. I think Brendan Allen's just too dumb. Like, he is good. I think Brendan Allen's more talented than Reiner de Ridder. Like, his striking is a lot cleaner. And Brendan Allen has a much better ability to dictate where the fight goes. But at the same time, I can't help but think in my head, Brendan Allen is probably going to mess this up some way or some shape or form, right? In his fight with Anthony Hernandez, Brendan Allen, I remember him throwing a switch head kick. Hernandez catches it, and then Brendan Allen, in response, tries to jump for the back of Anthony Hernandez 30 seconds into the fight. Yeah, I can't help you with that. Like, Brendan Allen, he will find revolutionary ways to lose fights. And plus, he is taking this fight on short notice. And Brendan Allen, like, yes, his cardio's not bad, but if you are able to resist his grappling, he tends to gas out as the fight progresses. And Reiner de Ridder's his whole thing is jujitsu. All right, Reiner de Ridder, I think, has the slight advantage in the grappling against Brendan Allen. And on the feet, I just see Brendan Allen doing something completely stupid and allow Reiner de Ridder to get back into the fight. All right, Reiner de Ridder, he's goofy as hell. He's very open because his defense is practically non-existent. But at the same time, Brendan Allen's not going to be the one to put you away on the feet. Brendan Allen will, like, give you back opportunities after you seem to fumble it first. Reiner de Ridder is going to win this fight, all right? Even though he's not that clean of a striker or like a clean jiu-jitsu wrestler, practicer, he knows what he's good at and he maximizes it to its full potential. That's what I really like about Reiner de Ridder. I'm going to expect Reiner de Ridder to fold up Brendan Allen in the later rounds. I think the knees to the body are very open for Reiner de Ridder. All right, we know that Reiner de Ridder has very nasty knees, and Brendan Allen, again, he's taking this fight on short notice. So if Reiner de Ridder can survive the first 3 rounds, which I do believe he could, because Brendan Allen doesn't have the best pop in his shots, and it's not like his grappling's that much better than RDR's. RDR will be able to melt Brendan Allen as the fight progresses, and I expect Reiner de Ridder to get body shot TKO sometime in the later rounds. Maybe even like a knee up the face where like Brendan Allen like dives in for a dumbass single leg and Rainer DeRitter times a knee up there. Right? I don't know how Rainer DeRitter's gonna win this, but I know it's gonna be in the later rounds. And I know he's gonna be able to outlast Brendan Allen and eventually break him. So I'm gonna go with Rainer DeRitter to finish this fight by TKO. I say in the third or fourth round. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can get this channel monetized. Otherwise, though, I'll have a tier list rating all of the Dana White Contender Series contract winners tomorrow, if not Friday, because there's a lot of them, and I kind of need to watch a couple of fights back. Alright, if anything, I was planning on making that video first, but I said I was gonna get this out of the way, so I'm getting this out of the way first. But yeah, leave a comment down below who you have for the main event. And other than that, though, uh, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.